Well, the Washington Post this morning revealing new information on the person it says was behind a massive leak of U.S. government secrets.
Yeah, its website features a video of a young man telling reporters that the leader of a group of about 24 men who bonded online over their love of guns and God were leaked by a senior member of the group. This member was known to some as OG, the leak happening on a platform called Discord.
He is not a Russian operative. He is not a Ukrainian operative. I'll go as far to say he's not even on the east side of the world. Any claims that he is a Russian operative or pro-Russian is categorically false.
Well, the Post spoke to the Discord group member on the condition of anonymity. He is under 18, and his account was corroborated by a second member who read many of the same classified documents shared by OG.
The young man also telling the Post that OG worked on a military base and he posted the leaked papers out of frustration.
It would appear as if he sort of grew angry with the fact that only one or two people were paying attention to these documents that he was pouring his heart out into. And as a sign of just anger, he just decided to post the full documents.
Of course, this leak was significant as it exposes United States military and intelligence to friends and foes alike.
Well, this major intelligence leak has raised deep concerns about the state of U.S. intelligence operations here and abroad. Joining us for more on this story, as well as some other insights into other stories going on right now related to foreign policy and our national security. Welcome back to Morning Rush, former U.S. Ambassador to the UN and former National Security Advisor John Bolton. Mr. Bolton, thanks so much for giving us some more time. I kind of want to start, obviously, with this leak. We're learning a lot more thanks to the Washington Post exclusive, and their coverage kind of points out that this is very much unlike previous leaks. This wasn't something given to the media or handed out to reporters. This wasn't the work of some foreign adversary trying to embarrass America. They write it this way. The leak appears to have hinged on a single person with privileged access to top secret documents, a small inner circle of supporters willing to dissect and share the records, and a group chat service, Discord, that operates at a frenetic pace and is largely invisible to the rest of the internet. Have we entered a new age of leaks in this country, sir?
Well, I read the Washington Post article very carefully, and it certainly is strange. I'll grant that. And I also grant, just based on what we've seen in the media so far, it's the high probability is this is a security breach, a leak, a real problem for the United States. Now, having said that, I find the Washington Post interviews kind of bizarre. And I find the story kind of bizarre, and I find the whole thing bizarre. Not saying it's not true, but I'm saying when you get into this kind of murky area where an adversary may be trying to mix disinformation with information that's real and damaging, but to give credibility to the disinformation they want to purvey by surrounding it with information that's true, stories of 20-year-olds about internet chats and who OG is and this and that and the other, as I say, it could be true, but count me skeptical for now.
What makes you the most skeptical?
Well, there are anomalies in what we've heard in public. The whole idea that this fella is publishing rewritten versions of classified information on this chat room in an obscure app, and then gets dissatisfied because the other members of the chat room aren't excited about it, so he then starts taking pictures of the actual classified documents. I mean, maybe that's some person's psychology, but I'll be frank to say I don't understand it. What people would say, well, then why did these documents come out in such an obscure place? Well, there are lots of reasons somebody who wants to pervade disinformation would put it out in a strange and unusual way, maybe to cover his tracks. We don't know. I just say to viewers, when you get into the counterintelligence world, it's like entering a hall of mirrors. It's very complex. This may turn out to be something simple. You might just have a kid with a screw loose who decides to publish classified documents. It still would represent a severe breach of security, no doubt about it. But let's learn a little bit more before we draw conclusions.
To that point, though, the Pentagon, according to CNN reporting today, they're putting limits now on who has daily access to top secret information. There are roughly 3 million people. I never would have guessed the number was that high, with special security clearances able to get their hands on the nation's secrets and strategies in this way. That seems like a lot. Do you at least think it's worth examining how many folks can get their hands on this stuff regularly?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt across the government as a whole, too many people see too much classified information. I think the Pentagon, just because of its sheer size, spreads a lot of information around. And it's typically after there's a security breach, if that's what this is. It's like closing the barn door after the horse is out, but it's always worth reviewing and cutting back. The idea that I've got to have access to this, I've got to have access to that, becomes a status thing inside the government. It's really pervasive. So it's something that they should do. We should all do a lot better job of.
Yeah. 3 million just struck me as a very high number in terms of security clearances nationwide. Obviously, most damaging, arguably, from that leak was the information about Ukraine, particularly highlighting some of their weaknesses, information that one would imagine Russia was more than happy to digest. And now we have some centrist senators visiting Ukraine. Do you buy into the idea that America's growing, or at least some in Congress, and specifically some Republicans, are growing weary of our commitment to Ukraine, or at least are more skeptical about the $80 billion so far that we've given to that country? Do you support prolonged financial commitment, American financial commitment to that country?
I do. I think it's important to defeat the Russian aggression. I think it's important to show the world that peace and stability on the European continent, which have been a bedrock of our foreign policy since 1945, remains true. I agree that within the Republican Party, the virus of isolationism is spreading. I don't think it's a crisis yet. I don't think it's anything more than a small minority. And there are, on the left side of the spectrum, in the Democratic Party, there's a kind of isolationism there too that should concern all of us. But from a U.S. national interest point of view, we have a lot at stake in Ukraine, and we're gaining significant strengths from watching the Russian army, as Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said some months back, being fed into a wood chipper, which is what their strategy is doing. We're seeing battlefield testing of our weapons, which, by the way, are doing very well. It's telling us a lot about the nature of the Russian threat, and I think it's also helping to awaken a lot of Americans to the growing Chinese-Russian axis and the threat that China poses along its Indo-Pacific periphery.